All right, let's just jump right in. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're going to unpack one of the most powerful and honestly enduring messages ever delivered by the legendary Ratan Tata. We are taking a truly historic speech of his and distilling it down into concrete, actionable life lessons for anyone stepping out into the real world. But the real focus today, the golden thread tying all of this together, is humility. We so often picture success as this aggressive, loud, disrupt everything kind of confidence. But Tata, he flips that completely upside down. He actually shows us how true, lasting success is deeply, deeply rooted in being humble. So let's see exactly how he breaks this down.
Consider the absolute biggest, most paralyzing myth in our society today. It really comes down to four little words. It can't be done. Tata makes this incredible point that, to a huge extent, the failures or the sheer lack of progress we see around us, they're literally just a function of this exact mindset. I mean, how many times have you heard someone say that? Tata challenges us to entirely reject this defeatist attitude. He points out that a lot of times, it's not even a genuine lack of capability stopping us. It's just vested interests, people who already have power saying something shouldn't be done. It takes a really grounded kind of humility to quiet the noise of all those skeptics, take a step back and decide, no, I'm not going to let the ego of the status quo dictate what's actually possible.
I mean, just look around you. Think about the absolute titans of our world. Were these massive global companies built on surefire guarantees? Absolutely not. Tata reminds us to look at where Microsoft, Apple, Amazon, Google, and Facebook actually started. They were born in garages. These global empires sprouted from really simple ideas by folks who just quietly believed something could be done and that they could make a difference. They took a leap. They didn't start with these massive gleaming corporate towers and some arrogant presumption of inevitable success. Nope. They started with the humility of a dusty garage and a quiet willingness to just try.
So, on one hand, society loves to push this myth, this whole idea that if something is hard, well, it just can't be done. But Tata demands a totally different mindset from us. He explicitly says it is your job to remove those myths and just get things done. He really urges us not to buy into the narrative that just because someone says it's impossible, you shouldn't try. You literally have to strip away those ego-driven narratives of impossibility and focus purely on doing the work.
So let's move on to Section 1, Humility as Your Defense, the Ultimate Competitive Advantage.
Okay, I really want you to let this sink in. Tata says outright, your success is going to be your humility. Now, in a world that is constantly screaming at you to shout your achievements from the rooftops, Tata is arguing the exact opposite. He connects humility directly to your actual capacity to grow. He points out that your whole world moving forward is going to be about learning and listening. Think about it. If you're arrogant, you stop listening. If you think you already know it all, well, you stop learning. Humility isn't some weakness. It's actually this incredible foundational defense mechanism that keeps your mind wide open and your potential completely limitless.
And Tata shares this absolutely brilliant anecdote to drive this home. He says, if you sit next to a Nobel laureate, he never tells you that he won a Nobel Prize. Other people tell you. Wow, it's just such a perfect illustration, right? True greatness, real, undeniable achievement, it speaks for itself. You don't need to be the one walking around with a megaphone broadcasting your own importance. Tata's advice is to let humility be your best defense. By letting your actions and your character do the talking, you build a reputation that is completely unshakable by all the fragile egos around you.
So this naturally leads us to kind of redefine what we're actually aiming for here. What is true success? Tata shifts the spotlight entirely away from personal wealth. He flat out says you shouldn't just consider yourself successful based on the prosperity you rack up for yourself. True success, this humble version of success, is going home at night and actually feeling satisfied that you made a difference. And he insists that this difference is something literally every single one of us can make, if we just decide to. It takes deep humility to realize the world doesn't revolve around your personal bank account, but rather the tangible, positive impact you leave behind.
Which brings us to Section 2, Choosing the Ethical Path and Navigating Difficult Decisions.
Here is where Tata issues a really stark warning. He mentions how saddened he's been to see ethical practices just thrown completely to the wind, with all these subjective issues taking over. As future leaders, his big hope is that you will look at being ethical and actually hold the value systems that you want your country to have. Listen, it is so easy to sit back and complain about a corrupt system, right? But it takes immense personal humility and serious discipline to actually be the ethical standard you want to see. You can't let your own ego or, the temptation to take shortcuts compromise the broader values of your environment.
Because the reality is, there are going to be thousands of occasions in your life where you face incredibly tough decisions. And in those moments, you've got to constantly be asking yourself, are you doing the right thing? You need to make the decision that is right, no matter how difficult or incredibly unpopular it might be. Actually, more often than not, doing the right thing means putting your own popularity or your own immediate gain completely aside. It requires the humility to accept short-term discomfort for the sake of your long-term integrity.
And that brings us to Section 3, making a real difference, the duty of the privileged.
All right, prepare for a profound reality check. On one side, we have the fortunate few. Tato explicitly asks us to look in the mirror and recognize that we are among the more fortunate people in the world, literally just because we've had the privilege of a good education. And on the other side, the harsh reality. There are millions who are way less fortunate. He begs us, don't ever forget that. True humility is looking at your life and recognizing that your achievements aren't entirely your own doing. They are built on a massive foundation of privilege, access, and education that so many others out there simply never got.
And because you possess that privilege, Tata lays out a crystal-clear duty for you. You need to give back to society some of the learning you have done. You have to do something for your country, for the people around you. Think about it. You've used your innovativeness, your creativity, your hard work to get exactly where you are today. Now, the truly humble and honestly necessary next step is to redirect all those incredible tools outward to lift other people up.
And as you step out to do that, keep this in the back of your mind. Your real learning starts right now as you go into the real world. Getting a degree, finishing a curriculum, that's just the warm-up. The tools, the exposure, they've been handed to you. But what you actually make of your life is defined by what you do from this moment on. Tata reminds us that for sure. There are going to be failures, there will be serious frustrations along the way. But if you keep a humble mindset, you'll stay committed to the world around you, treating every single setback as a valuable lesson rather than some crushing defeat.
Which brings us to our final thought for today's explainer. Despite everything, Tata remains incredibly optimistic. He even says he's envious of those of you stepping into the world of today and tomorrow, and he's calling on us to really step up and play our role as leaders. So, I want to leave you with this question to chew on. How will you use your humility to shape the world of tomorrow? Will you be the one who actually listens, the one who learns, who chooses the painfully hard ethical path and gives back to those who have less? The tools are literally right there in your hands. Now it's up to you to get things done. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep learning, keep questioning, and I will see you next time.